now I told you I like to name things after like pop culture references. So if you're not familiar, Lazy Sunday was a rap on Saturday Night Live, like a long time ago, back in the early days of YouTube. And I happen to have like a love affair with Andy Samberg. I think he's hilarious. And I've named like multiple patterns after skits. Like the cover of my book is called Laser Cats, which is one of his SNL skits. And then like one of my colors of kitty litter is called Laser after the Laser Cats. And yeah, so I always like tag him and stuff that I name after him, like hoping that someday he'll notice that I exist.
You're listening to Fussy Cutters Club podcast, a show that gives you permission to cut into the good fabric so you can make quilts you love. And now your host, who believes it's not a crime to love using novelty fabrics, Ange Wilson.
Hello, welcome back, Fussy Cutters. Today we're talking to a fabric designer, a mum, an advocate for having fun and finding joy in what you're doing, a cat lover, a super awesome person, and yeah, just one of those people that I've been stalking on social media for a while. I'm a lurker. I and have been lurking in her social media feed for a while. I've loved everything she's done. She won me even more when she put out such a fabulous blender. It is the one, the only Pammie Jane, or as we call her, Pam, Pamela, Spam, she'll answer to. Pammie Jane is a design label that has fabric collections with Dear Stella and standalone quilt patterns, and she wrote a book called Perfect Quilting, which, as the name suggests, is all about cat quilting. She is just super lovely, super friendly. We had so much in common. It was just crazy. And we didn't even talk about the thing that we find we have in common that I have grossed my husband out about for years, but I was stoked to find someone else who had the same fascination as I do. And we don't talk about it in the interview. So if you want to know what it is, you're going to have to go to her Instagram page and click on her About Me pinned photo and find out 2 interesting facts about her, and then guess which one of the gross ones I share. That's a massive hint. Anyway, it's Pammie Jane. She is lovely. She is talented. She has one of the best blender collections, and it was her first ever collection, which is just mind blowing. And she is with Dear Stella, who, if you've listened to any of the other podcasts, you know Dear Stella is dear to my heart when it comes to a fabric house that makes fussy cut friendly fabric. It's a great conversation. We cover off everything and anything. It's a great one if you're looking at getting into surface pattern design. It's a great one if you just want to follow someone else who's really lovely and nice and friendly and just super talented and generous. And yeah, just there's not enough words. I can't say enough about her. She's lovely. So I'm going to stop rambling. Let's get chatting. Pammie Jane, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Angie?
Good. Now, do you want me to call you Pammie Jane, Pam, Pamela, Spam? What would you like?
I am good with all of them, all of the above. Like most people now, because they see my name as Pammie Jane for my business, they've started calling me Pammie Jane. But I actually use that as my business name because there are so many other Pams in quilting that, so like, it used to be that most people called me Pam or Pamela, but yeah, now people have started calling me that. It was just a cute nickname that my husband had for me, and I'm like, well,
it works.
That's who I am.
Yep,
so
I'm the same.
Yeah. So I'm good with all of them, but yeah.
I'll answer to Gnome. It's fine. So for those that don't know you, how dare they, would you give us a little bit of an explanation of what you do, who you are, where you come from, that sort of thing?
Yes, I would love to. I am Pam Morgan, Pammie Jane. I live in Idaho in the United States. Most people know where Idaho is. If nothing else, they know that we have a lot of potatoes here. this is not my original home. I'm from Pittsburgh, the East Coast originally. And I am kind of the cat lady of quilting right now, like the first cat lady of quilting. I wrote a book. I wrote a book called Perfect Patchwork, and it's like purr like a cat purrs, and it's filled with, there's 16 really cat themed projects for all levels of quilters. And then I am a fabric designer for Dear Stella Fabrics, and I have a basics collection called Kitty Litter.
And it is perfect as a basic. And you've done one of those things that I personally really love with a basic, is that from a distance it looks like a splatter pattern, but when you get up close, it's got such cute little details of cats' heads in it. So, which as a fabric lover, it's one of the things I really love, is when a fabric delivers more than just what's immediately obvious to you, that there's like hidden little gems in it. And it's got 36 colors or something?
There's 45.
That's a lot of fabrics.
45. And yes, and it's kind of crazy because that was my first collection to come out. So when I met with Dear Stella, I'd been like a huge admirer of Dear Stella Fabrics for a long time. Like Ray Ritchie was one of my favorite designers. And I met with Dear Stella, and when I showed them my portfolio, I actually had it as just it was just like a little like blender print that was in a collection that I showed them that I had designed. And the director of Dear Stella, she was like, I think we need to make this into a basic. Like, how do you feel about doing a basic? And I was like, I love it. And so, yeah. So it's still kind of crazy to me that like my very first collection that came out was this huge 45-piece collection. And I loved it because I designed, all these colors. She's like, just start with like 15 or 20 and we'll just go from there. I'll tell you what we need. And like, I had all these colors and she's like, could you throw a few more in? And so we ended up with 45 colors, which is crazy, but we've had like great feedback about the colors and I tried to incorporate colors that I love that you can't necessarily find basics of, like, especially like oranges outside of Halloween. It's really hard to find oranges. And I like a huge spectrum of colors and fabrics in my quilt.
And your favorite color is the same favorite color that my husband has, which when I first found out what his favorite color was, I was like, how is that? You are the only person I know that's ever picked that as a favorite color, but it's olive green. Like it's...
Yeah, I have olive green in my house, and like people are really surprised because it doesn't look like it stepped out of the 1970s like retro. I love it, but I actually love it because my grandmother, who's like a huge inspiration to me as an artist, she was a hairdresser by trade. That's what she, that was her day job. And she had a studio in her house and like everything was olive green. And I actually didn't even realize till I was an adult that that's probably why it was my favorite color, because I spent so much time in there. And
it's really weird because when he was like, I like, and he calls it army green, so like a khaki color. Yeah. And I was like, oh, dude, that's a really hard color to, and like it just, but over the years as I've made stuff for him and tried to incorporate that color into it, it really goes with everything. It's not like it could be what are they?
It's a lot more neutral than you think. And like it looks great with pinks
and blues and oranges and navy. And so,
yeah, it's a lot easier to work with than you initially think. Yeah. And it goes with
so I was like, I already love you, but now I know my husband's going to love you as well because he's a big advocate of the olive green champion. The other thing is you work with Dear Stella, which as a fussy cutter, Dear Stella is one of my favorite fabric brands. We just can't get it here.
Yes, and And I have a lot of prints that are able to be fussy cut too, like in collections that are out now or that are upcoming.
Because and that's the other thing. I follow you on Instagram and have for a while, but I'm a lurker on Instagram. I like to I don't know what it is. There's something between the liking of a photo and the comment that I can't just make the jump into. Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's my own personal little voyeurism of getting to have a look at everybody else's stuff. But you do a lot of rainbow stuff, which we love, obviously. And you have this really cute, fun aesthetic, and you do slip in some fussy cuts every so often into your work. And like I said, one of the things I really love is that your prints are fussy cut friendly. They're, like you've got, is it coming out or is it out already? Is it Catterday? The lazy Catterday?
Oh, it's Lazy Sunday. Yes. And so I made for H&H. I don't know if you know what H&H is.
It's like a giant trade show, isn't it? But for just creative stuff?
Yes, but it's not just quilting. It's like all needlework type things. So there's like crocheting and knitting and embroidery, and there's more than garment sewing. There's more than just quilting there, which is nice because they do have a lot of overlap, those industries. And I didn't get to go this year, but dear Stella did take a whole bunch of my stuff. And so I made a bunch of projects, and I actually made fellow Aussies tiny TVs.
Oh, Christy.
And fussy cut.
Yeah.
Yes. I love, because they're TVs. And now I told you I like to name things after like pop culture references. So if you're not familiar, Lazy Sunday was a rap on Saturday Night Live, like a long time ago, back in the early days of YouTube. And I happen to have like a love affair with Andy Samberg. I think he's hilarious. And I've named like multiple patterns after skits. Like the cover of my book is called Laser Cats, which is one of his SNL skits. And then like one of my colors of kitty litter is called Laser after the Laser Cats. And yeah, so I always like tag him and stuff that I name after him, like hoping that someday he'll notice that I exist.
You need to make a, who was it a number of years ago made the not Ron Burgundy, the guy from Parks and Rec, who's...
Oh, Ron Swanson. That's our family favorite show. And my husband actually has the same job as Ron Swanson. And like we have a signed Nick Offerman book. Yeah, we're big on comedy here at our house.
But there was that quilt that someone made, a pixel quilt of Ron Swanson. And they took...
I don't know that I ever saw that, and now
it was huge.
Now I need to
find it. So they made
a
pixel quilt of Ron Swanson, and then they actually took it to the Parks and Rec. I don't know how the connection happened. I don't know whether Nick Offerman saw it or
it might have. No, it might have been QuiltCon because, like, apparently the city building in Pasadena, which is where they've had QuiltCon before in Pasadena. Apparently that their city hall is what they use as Pawnee City Hall.
They've got photos of Ron Swanson with the Ron Swanson quilt. I will send you a link. I am making a note. I will send you a link because I'll have to find it for the show notes.
Yes, I absolutely need to see that.
You need to make an Andy Samberg one. And then if the rumors are true that they're making a Brooklyn Nine-Nine movie.
Oh, my gosh. Oh my gosh, really? I hadn't heard that, but we love Brooklyn Nine-Nine too.
Yeah, well, we just, I was talking to Pam a little bit before the podcast started, but we're educating our 11-year-old on funny sitcoms and, well, TV shows that mean something to his father and I. So we oscillate between his dad picks a show and then I pick a show and then I pick it, like back and forth. And the last one before the one we're currently watching House, which was my choice. But the one before it, we made him watch all of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And so for ages, there was Brooklyn Nine-Nine jokes happening all through the house. They thought it was hilarious. But yes.
Oh yeah, we love it. So we have so many that are our favorites. Like my son, one of my kids has a friend whose name is Soren, and we always think about the episode The Swedes. We start like quote, and anytime he says Soren, we start quoting the Swedes like, you don't even want to know what's in his Tupperware. And
it was funny because when I was pregnant with our kid, we did 6 years of IVF to get him. So there's a bit of backstory. We did 6 years of IVF to get him. Oh, yeah. And then when we did the round that we were successful and he was conceived on, my pregnancy hormone levels were really high. And they were like, you know, normally we have to warn you that high numbers like this can sometimes indicate that you've got twins. And so for a brief period there, we had like a week of going, oh, we could have twins. We're going to have twins. And I'm a big Supernatural TV show fan. And so for ages, everyone was joking that I should call them, if we had twins, Sam and Dean. And we're like, that would be really funny. But the kid is called Samuel, and not after Sam from Supernatural, but so many times there's things where I'll yell out, hey, Sammy! And I think, I'm just channeling Dean from Supernatural. And I think, how many kids are wandering the world named after like shows or pop culture references or, but yes, it's just really funny. He is and he doesn't do supernatural stuff, so I can't, plus he's too young at the moment. I can't kind of go, hey, bud, watch this. You won't sleep for a week.
So I didn't even realize we only have one girl. We have 4 kids and we only have one girl, and her name is Paige and our last name is Morgan. And I don't know if you've ever seen the Prince and Me movie, Julia Stiles.
But like years and years ago.
And the main character's name is Paige Morgan, and I had no idea. It was completely unintentional that we named her that. So we actually named her Paige, and her middle initial is Afton, after my husband's grandma, but we did it so that her initials spell Pam.
I thought I was the only one. When he was, like, when we were getting, like, choosing names, the whole time I was like, we should pick a name that when he uses his initials, it gets some word or something. And I got so close because our last name's Wilson and his first name's Sam, so there's an S and a W, but we couldn't do an E middle name.
That would have been funny though if his middle name or if his initials spelled out so.
Like, then it'd be a tax deduction.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back. Are you looking for a safe space to express who you are as a fabricaholic? Look, that seems funny and it's all weird and it's right for me to say that. But let's face it, if you're listening to this podcast, there's a fair chance that you have quite a substantial fabric collection and that you pay attention to what fabrics are being released, that you like being creative, that you make time for patchwork, and that you look for friends who share a similar outlook on life and a similar appreciation for creativity and sewing and fabric collection and what the latest designers are doing. Look, if that's you, the good news is I've started a safe place for all of us to get together. It's all about having a place where you can come, share your creativity, share your favourite fabrics. We're not going to be quilt police. We don't care if your favourite fabric is a fabric that's covered with rubber ducks. Bring it, sister. That's what we want to see. So if you're looking for like-minded people, why not check out Society Gnome? You can find all the details at gnomeangel.com. We look forward to welcoming you to the group. And now, on with the chat. Back to fabric. So you're with Dear Stella, and as I said, Dear Stella is one of our favourite fabric design companies. Is there, like, did you, when you pitched your fabric, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but when you pitched your fabric, did you have a hierarchy of I'm going to this company? Like, did you research?
I did. And Dear Stella was actually number 2 on the list. And it's kind of funny because, sometimes things happen for a reason, or like you think that something is your first choice, but then so a Free Spirit was initially my first choice, and I had pitched to them a lot and they liked my stuff, and it just didn't work out. It just didn't feel like, I don't know, like personality wise, like it just wasn't a good fit for me. And then I met Jamie, who my husband was like, maybe you should just start. He was like, who's next on your list? He actually said it to me when I was pitching. He's like, maybe you should just move on. I think you should look elsewhere. And so he asked who was next on my list, and I said, Dear Stella. And so we just kind of like marched over there and talked to them. And like, I just really hit it off with everybody in the company. And it's been a really good experience for me. I think
people tend to find in the good outcomes, people tend to find where they're suited. And I think your vibe is so Dear Stella. I know.
Yeah.
It's weird, right? Because
and I don't know how much you know about like the process or, of designing whatever, but I am a painter by
choice.
Like that's my thing. Yeah. Yeah. That's like my artistic voice. I'm a painter. That's what I do. And it took me a long time to be able to transition my same painting style to digital. And now I actually do all of my painting digitally. But for other companies, like for instance, with Free Spirit, I felt like I was dumbing my artwork down. And I don't mean that
no, it's just the companies have their own styles.
It's just, yes. And like, I was like, to be able to make my aesthetic fit to Free Spirit's aesthetic, I was really like dumbing it down. I was losing all of my brush strokes and things that make my art what it is, And so with Dear Stella, because they do more digital printing than anything, I was able to retain all of that aesthetic. And I also think it's something that's interesting that I'd heard Tula Pink say before in like designing fabric that when she got to Free Spirit for the first time, somebody was asking her for more, whereas previously she felt like they were always wanting her to be less. And I kind of had that same experience with Dear Stella. Like they were wanting to see more of what I could do, so that was a huge factor for me too. It really fit.
And it's not a it's not a comment on, and I have this thing in the creative world where there's this tendency for people to go, if someone doesn't like it, that means that it's less than, that it's not worthy, or it's, and that's completely not the case. If someone doesn't like it, they just don't like it. Like it's not a comment on you as a person or your value or your worth, or you have to find the people that it resonates and clicks with. And I think fabric houses have very distinct styles and color palettes and the types of people that they work with. And so, I mean, they're a brand. That's the whole, their marketing. They've got to sell what they stand for, all of that sort of thing. And I think a lot of times with fabric designers, the successful ones find the houses that reflect who they are as an artist. And I think that's why the Dear Stella fit with you is so good, because like Lazy Sunday, the texture on I want to say they're Siamese cats, but you'll probably know they're probably some very specific breed, but the texture of the color gradient between the heads and into the bodies and the color transition across those and things like that, and those little details really suit a Dear Stella vibe. Like they have a real...
Yeah. And they're actually they're more Himalayan. So they were a combination. My sister has a Siamese cat. And so I used hers and then my Himalayan, and they were like the inspiration for all the poses, like of the cats, like the cats on the couches. They were just, they were picture like snapshots that I took with my phone of the cats in like ridiculous poses. And then, I turned it into fabric.
Yeah, but as a cat owner, like we have 2.5 cats, and I say half because she's been here 12 months now, But we live on a property that backs onto jungle, basically. Like there's a river and all of this rainforest trees and all that sort of stuff. And our house literally opens onto that environment. And one day I was in the house and I saw something move at the back door. We have like big glass sliding back doors. And I was like, what's that? Now I'm used to seeing snakes turn up and goannas and wallabies and all sorts of things turn up at the back door. And I like creeped down to the back door and it's a 5-week-old kitten. She'd come out of the jungle. And so it took me 6 hours to coax her from outside into the house. But once she was in the house, I never let her go again. And so we had 2 boys that we'd rescued, brothers, who we'd had for a couple of years. And now we've got this, because she's not feral. She's beautiful, but she's not our cat. Does that make sense? Like the boys are very much.
Well, have you seen like the memes where like people come home and it's like, I don't have a cat, and there's like a picture of a cat like sleeping on their couch, and
that's what she's like.
It's kind of that same
like
vibe.
The boys will sit on us, and you can pick them up and pat them, and they come looking for affection. Whereas she just kind of exists on top of all of our cupboards, or under our bed, or under the couch. And we named her Monster because she lives under the bed, and so she just kind of exists. And then every so often, because she's still very cautious about people, she'll come for a cuddle, and you're like, they're the most specialist cuddles because you know that she's come.
Yeah, because she doesn't come very often.
So you're like, yes. And then everyone in the house is like, shh, don't move, she's coming for a cuddle. But yeah, it's the pictures on the Lazy Sunday, if you have a cat, they're exactly how cats are. Like they just drape themselves in the weirdest places, or they're chasing a ray of sun, but so that's in your fabric design. But then in your quilts, you're currently running a Halloween sew-along. Is it a Halloween sew-along?
I am. Yes, it is a Halloween quilt along, and it's like really low key because I have so much going on. And one of my friends is actually running it, even though it's on my Instagram. And so she has to like come over and remind me like, hey, we need to post pictures of stuff because
you should just give her access
because I have so much. Well, I did. And I think she's like afraid to use my Instagram. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm so bad at posting stuff that like you're really not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, social media, it's one of those things where you're like, I know on some level that I need to do social media, and then I just don't enjoy it. I feel like it's just pushing stuff.
Same. Like I like the relationship like with the people. Like I love other quilters. I like getting to know other quilters. It's the whole like having to post. Like I will sew a whole quilt and then realize like I did not take a single progress picture, like because I would rather be making the quilt than, you know, telling people, hey, this is what I'm doing. You know,
I'm like, people are like, what have you been doing? I'm like, I've sewn so much. Really? Because we've not seen anything. And I'm like, wow, I get so caught up in the moment of sewing it and making it that I don't stop to think about the business side of things. And I always admire people who are like, this is me sewing. And I'm like, if I was showing video of me sewing, there'd be loud music going. I'd be dancing all over the place. There'd be like a chaos of fabric and me just head down. Like I can go without meals. I can forget that I got to go somewhere. I can just completely zone out and be lost in my own little dance world.
I turn on a binge-worthy show. Or like I love stand-up comedy. So like on Apple Music, I'll turn up stand-up comedy, and like before I know it, like 3 days will been going by. I'm like, when was the last time I brushed my teeth? Like, you know, like that's kind of my vibe when it comes. Like when I get creative, I really get in the zone, and tend to tune everything else out.
Yep, I feel you. The only reason I leave here is to use the facilities, and that's the boys are like, oh, so you've come to use the bathroom. I'm like, yeah, 5 seconds and I'll be back. We put a fridge in the studio and it's been amazing because I can just get a drink now. I can get a snack. I don't have to go back to the house.
Yeah, we have one down. We have one down here. My studio's in my basement. And so then like next door, there's a big family room and that's where our long arm is. And my husband actually long arms everything for me.
Oh, handy.
Yeah. So yeah, I have my own personal, long arm quilter out there. So, but yeah, then in between we have like a little mini like bar. And so, yeah, we have a refrigerator and snacks and I've got an ice machine there because I'm obsessed with ice.
I'm just going to, before we get onto that, I'm just going to pull the blind down because I had, oh, that's been driving me batty. I had blackout curtains on the windows and it's winter here in the tropics, which means our bougainvillea is flowering and, the coluses are looking lovely and all this sort of stuff. And so I took all the blackout curtains off the windows so I could see the garden that we've been working on. And the problem is the sun now just comes streaming in, which I don't mind the light, but yes. So ice machine, because I grew up in the tropics. I've never drunk coffee. I don't drink tea. I don't do hot drinks, right? But I will have.
I don't love them. Like I like iced coffee. I love iced tea.
But ice, I have to have ice in everything.
Yeah. You have to have ice. I think I'm just hot-blooded by nature. Like I cannot stand being hot and I'm hot all the time. So the last thing I want to do is drink something hot. And like, I won't just drink a cup of water, or a bottle of water. Like I have to have ice in it. And my husband's like, what is wrong with you? He's like, you're just taking your like medicine before you go to bed. Why do you need to put ice in it? And I'm like, I just have to.
It's like a running joke. So we moved back up to the tropics 2 years ago now. But I was born in this area. It's, I grew up here. I used to wear jeans in 30 degrees Celsius weather. And then I spent 2 decades.
What is 30 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit?
Hang on. I don't, but I love Google because Google will know. 30.
Yeah.
86.
86. So hot.
So that's winter for us. 86 is winter for us. So I would wear jeans, I would be a jumper like a bit, and then I moved to Canberra, which is the capital of Australia, and it's southern, it's in a mountain, it's got like 4 seasons, it gets below zero during winter. It occasionally has snowed, but nothing that sticks. So, and it was amazing. I was like, I have found my people. I can wear shorts and a shirt in winter and be comfortable. And so when we moved back up here, I'm like, was it always this hot and humid? Like I can't. And so it's been a running joke. So this is my studio and it's a converted carport garage thingy. But the first thing I had installed was an air conditioner and it runs at 18 all the time. Like, so 18 is, 64 Fahrenheit.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool for air conditioning. Like we usually keep ours at about 69.
So is that 22? 20? 21.
It's somewhere
21 degrees. So, so I'm like 18, right? And then I'm drinking my beverages with ice in here and everyone's just like, you are mental. And I'm like, no, I cannot do the heat. I cannot be hot.
Yeah. My friend, and so this is in the basement, like where it's generally cooler. And I don't know how much you know about like U.S. geography, but Idaho's up north. Like we border Canada, and I live by the Grand Tetons in the part of Idaho that I live in, like in Yellowstone National Park. So it gets pretty cold. And I like to joke that we have winter like 9 months out of the year here. It's not an exaggeration. Like It snowed the other day.
It's summer.
It's supposedly, we're supposed to be heading into summer. We get a lot of snow. And with my family coming, we were going to go to Yellowstone. And I got a news alert last night that they're expecting 1 to 2 feet of snow in Yellowstone. So a lot of the park is going to be closed. But anyway, my point with that was I get sidetracked really easily. That's like
I love it. That's the best thing about life. A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So my friend will come over and she'll be like all bundled up in a sweater. She's from California, like, you know, beach town where it's hot all the time. She'll be bundled up and I'm down here and it's like too hot in my studio and I'm like throwing off clothes, like, and she's freezing because we're in the basement.
And like people are like, why are you sweating? It's 18 degrees. I'm like, I'm standing beside the iron. The iron is on all the time. I am sweating. And I've been to the doctor and I've been like, dude, I will sweat in a freezer. What is going on? And he's like, same sometimes you just run a little bit hot. And I'm like, oh, it's horrible. And to the point where I was like, am I going through menopause? Like, am I getting a hot flush? And he's like, no, your hormones are that of a 16-year-old. You just run hot. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I've been like that too. Like when I was a teenager and I thought maybe it was like, because I've put on a lot of weight over the past few years. But then I like think back to when I was like a little stick figure teenager and I was still hot all the time. Like I just,
I was the same.
And and my son who's graduating, he's 18. He's like super tall and thin and he's the same way. Like he cannot stand being hot. Like, and so I guess we just run hotter than other people.
And I've been like, because when I grew up here, I was in the pool all the time, like in water. Water is my favorite place to be, in there, bobbing away, happy as Larry. When we were moving up here, I said to my husband, the one thing that we need when we buy a house is a pool because I cannot survive without a pool. Yeah. The one thing this property does not have, a pool.
Is a pool.
And I'm like, I think our electricity bill would go down if we put a pool in so I could go just cool off whenever I wanted.
Well, you know, it's funny, like talking about bills and stuff though. So my husband, not this past Christmas, but the one before, he bought me a nugget ice or like pebble ice, you know, different people call it different things, but like the little like teeny, you know, pebbles, whatever you want to call them. And I swear we spend so much less money because I'm not like going to a gas station or like a drink shop to get drinks just because I want their ice. Like,
that's funny. I got an ice machine 2 Christmases ago too. But I find now our ice machine needs to be cleaned because apparently they have to be cleaned. And so I turned it off to clean it and then got sidetracked on something else. And so I've been using ice cubes from the ice tray that I used to have, and they're huge. They're like big nuggets of ice, like big. Oh, and I'm like, I really like these because the ice machine only does little tiny cubes, lots of them, but like tiny little cubes. And I'm like, they melt too fast. And I've got, I don't know, I've got an insulated cup. And so I try to.
We have like the Stanleys are the big thing around here. I have one. Mine's right here. It's got a cat sticker on it. Yeah, it says stay hydrated.
Nice color. It's so we have apparently up here it's Yetis. I'd never heard of a Yeti before we moved here, and everybody has Yetis. And so I'm like,
I have a Yeti too. My other thing besides ice is I love straws, and like the Stanleys are like big, trendy right now in the U.S. Even though they're an old company that's been around for a long time, like some social media influencer made them popular or something. But the thing that I like is the straw in these. That's what I have. Like because I have like a Yeti water bottle, and I've had like a Hydro Flask one too. the Stanley has the best straw, in my opinion.
Well, you need to check out Sam Hunter of Hunter's Design Studio has done
she has that Stanley, it's on my wish list of
because
things I need to make.
Because then you can add your cat fabric to the Stanley cup.
Right? I know. I was thinking that I need to make like a whole Stanley quilt, like of different cat.
It is really weird how, like, if you'd said to me when I was 18 or 19, ice is going to be a big thing for you and not meth, but ice, like, in your drinks when you get older, I'd have been like, whatever. Yeah. And now I think such a first world problem. I'm worried about how cold my drink is. And
I know, right?
I'm just like, but as I said to my husband, I'm a creative person, and if it's not right in the studio, I cannot create. He's like, all right, prima donna. And we'll be right back. If you're like me, you love quilting. You love fabric. You love patchwork. You love everything to do about it. When you're not doing something for work-related or family-related, or you've got free time on your hands, what you're thinking about is quilting. Quilting, 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 fabric, 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 patchwork, patchwork, patchwork. That's all it is. If this is you, then I have the challenge for you. 100 days, 100 blocks. It's a simple challenge. I ask you to sew one patchwork block a day for 100 days. If you're interested in sewing along with me for 100 days as we make a 100 block sampler quilt, then check out all the information at gnomeangel.com. Click the link in our bio and description for more, and I can't wait to see you there and to sew along with you. And now, on with the chat. Let's get back to talking about quilting. What's your favourite? I know it's like picking children and no one has a favourite, but do you have a favourite project at the moment that you've made, a favourite quilt, pattern?
Yeah. Yes. So my favorite actual quilt that I've made is the Spooky Sampler, like the quilt along that's going on right now. Like, it came off the long arm, and I even quilted it with like a ghost panto called Spooky Swirls, and it's just so fun. Halloween is my absolute favorite holiday, and so I've just had so much fun. And then I also have a bag that I made with, like, I have like a girl ghost. That's like the name of the block, but it has a little bow on it. And I took Knot and Thread Designs. She has a bag pattern called like the Everyday Quilted Tote, and it has a zipper pocket in the front. And so I put the girl ghost on the front of the bag, and I'm absolutely loving it. Like, I can't wait for it to be Halloween time, so that I can use it.
You did something that I really love is the black and white stripe, which iconic for Halloween, I think, thanks to Beetlejuice.
Yes. That is actually coming back too. That's going to be like a recurring print. So I have this fall coming out a low volume collection, and then another basics collection that's really fabulous. And I called it weathered stripe, the stripe, because it's got like, it's literally just a brush stroke, and so that I pulled in a straight line, and so it's got really fun texture to it. But anyway, that black and white stripe is coming back, and it'll be kind of here to stay.
Yeah,
so.
And your Spooky Sampler, I like the is it cappuccino?
Oh yes, yeah, that's my friend Sherry. She designed that pattern. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cute.
It's just like, it's really funny because I wouldn't have said that I was a massive cat person, but every time I see a cat in a quilt design or fabric or something, I'm like, yeah, I gotta have that. Like, I don't know what it is. It's just, I don't know what it is. So you've got low volume coming out.
Yeah. I have a lot of collections. So my current rate with Dear Stella is I have like 4 a year plus holiday.
That's a lot. Are you worried
lot.
about burning out, or are you still in the throes of this is exciting, I can do this forever?
So as far as the fabric design, I am not worried about that part burning out. As far as like the quilting part, like I started designing all this stuff and it seems to be like my nature. I don't end up designing, no matter how hard I try, I end up designing these complex things. And so I had started out designing like 3, 4, 5 quilts per collection. And I was like, there is no way on earth that I can keep up with that pace. Like if there's somebody that can, awesome, more power to them. But I unfortunately don't. I don't have the spoons. I don't know if you know the spoon theory, but I do not have the spoons to. It's about like an autoimmune disease thing. And they say like where an average person has like, if you call their energy spoons and they have like an unlimited amount of spoons per day to do whatever they want. Somebody with like an autoimmune disease only has a very limited amount of spoons and they have to choose wisely how they use them. So I get it. I just don't have the energy to do that many. And so I told them, I'm like, I actually told the company, I told Dear Stella, I was like, I am great to keep designing fabric at this pace, but I'm just going to have to limit myself to one pattern per collection. And they were totally great with that.
Can you not do like Ruby Star and stuff like that where they partner with other designers?
Oh yeah. And Dear Stella does great about that. So, I mean, I think other people sew who design for Dear Stella, but as far as like being an actual like quilter who writes quilt patterns and stuff, I'm the only one in the Dear Stella lineup.
That makes sense.
Who actually like writes and designs quilt patterns.
So it's we have what we call like, so for ages I thought I had to sew everything. Like for ages I was like, I have to sew everything. It has to be my choices. I can't. That's what we're doing. Da 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 da. And then a few years ago, someone was like, no, you need to find someone who can sew for you, like do the sample sewing and stuff like that. Which at the time...
Yep. And I'm getting to that point too. It was a really hard thing for me to discover, but like the past 2 shows, like going to QuiltCon and Quilt Market last year, I stressed myself out so much. Like I had like no sleep and it wasn't anybody else's fault but my own because I was just like, no, I have to do it all myself, you know? Like, and I learned very quickly that I cannot, in fact, do it all by myself.
We call our person a stunt sewist. So they
That's a great term. I like it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to steal that.
And they do all the hard stuff and make it look like it's me. So, but that was when we were doing patterns all the time, or that was our plan to do patterns all the time. That was how we were going to do it, was through a stunt sewist. Whereas now, for sew-alongs, and I've got a very lovely I've started working with a very lovely business coach, and she's like, why does it have to be your stuff all the time? And I'm like, because people come to see what I do. But that's the thing. And she's like, it doesn't have to be you 100% of the time. And I'm like,
I am working with a business coach too, that I realized that was something that I needed. You know, I kind of needed to change my mindset about how this was going to go, or I was going to fizzle and burn out, you know, like, and again, like I said, not necessarily on the fabric, but because I really love that part and I feel like I have endless ideas for it. But
it's all the other stuff.
It's just everything else. Yeah. Like I can hyper focus on the fabric, but for my business to work, I have to have all the other things too. And unfortunately, I'm only one person and, I can't do it all. And so, that was something I did for myself and my business this year.
But you're not alone.
And she's actually,
that's good.
Too. Yeah. She's actually,
she understands.
Yeah. It's Vanessa Christensen, Company. She is amazing. She is fantastic.
She is a little pocket rocket.
Yeah.
Like,
yes, she is awesome. Yeah. So it's really great to work with her. Like we get along great. It's So it's been really helpful for me and really helpful, like I said, to change that mindset. Like I can't do it all on my own, and it's okay to ask other people to help.
You're not alone. Like you're not the first person to go through this. You're not, it gets back to that thing. You're not less than by asking for help, which was how I felt a lot of the times. I was like, if I don't do this.
And that's how I felt too. And yeah, like I kept asking myself, like, how is everybody else doing this? And yeah, and it's easy because they're not doing it by themselves. And
yeah, social media has a lot to answer for. Yeah, and it's that thing of, it's the thing of being honest and open with yourself and defining what your boundaries are and what you'll accept and what you won't accept and what your non-negotiables are, and so it's been a really, like I've been in business since 2018, and this is the first time where I actually feel like we're running a business and it's not just a really expensive hobby. And it's...
Yeah, totally understand that.
I went into it thinking this will be great and I can do this, and it has been one of the biggest struggles that I have ever faced is how to do it. And it's also one of the biggest...
And actually make money doing it.
And we're not making money at the moment. We've had the worst 2 years we've ever had. And if it wasn't for my husband's job, the business, I'd be working at Macca's. Oh, sorry. For our American listeners, that's McDonald's. We call it Macca's.
Yeah, I was like, I have no idea what Macca's is.
So in Australia, we give everything a nickname, right? Everything. And like it's a sign of endearment. If someone gives you a nickname, they really like you. And so McDonald's ended up having to trademark Macca's because in Australia, everyone calls McDonald's Macca's. And so there are actual stores that have Macca's, like in the golden arch M and the font for McDonald's. And I always forget that other people don't have a Macca's.
Don't know what Macca's is.
Yeah. So, so there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that I think, and like you see people put on Facebook, I'm running a 6-figure business. And you're like, there's no transparency about how that 6 figures is actually made up, whether they're running at a profit, whether that 6 figures is all debt, and no transparency about who they've got behind them helping them. Is there a mum at home, like a grandmother, looking after the kids, making dinner, cleaning the house? Are there aunts, uncles? Like Missouri, like everyone goes, oh, Jenny Doan's amazing. Like when Missouri first started hitting off, and she is, but they have a whole family helping them.
Yeah, they have the whole family running that business.
Yeah.
So,
and her kids had the skill set. Like most of us have to teach ourselves the skill set.
So a friend of mine, her husband was roommates with one of Jenny's kids in college, and he was actually like doing a lot of the behind the scenes computer stuff for, like, that's what he does. And so for a few years they lived in Missouri, and he worked for Missouri Star. So, there's a lot of...
And that's not detracting from their success, because they had to have the smarts to be able to go, this is what we'll do. We're going to do this, and this is how we'll get there. And then they've adapted and they've learnt and they've skilled up but it's not just Jenny. It's not one person. And I think a lot of times social media, you see it with a lot of pattern designers where they're like, you know, I'm pumping out these many patterns a year and this many quilts and this and that and da-da-da-da. And within 12 months, they've got burnout, or they're struggling, their relationships are falling apart, all of that sort of thing, because they're trying to manage this unreal expectation that they can do everything perfectly. And there's only one person in the history of the world that's done that, and it ain't me. So I'm like, it's a fallacy that we teach each other that you can do it all. And I think getting a business coach, especially that business coach, massive help to your business. Going easy on yourself, because you do, if anyone follows you on Instagram, you will have, they should know that you've just been diagnosed with lupus. So to have, you're not working with the same level of spoons that everybody else is. So it's even more amazing, all the stuff you've done. And like some of the people that I know with autoimmune are just like, I imagine what they would be like if they were given all the spoons, and they would be unstoppable. Like to get up every day and do the stuff that they do and achieve what they do and all of that sort of thing, I'm like, it blows my mind. So you've got a unique situation to you that you have to deal with. And so not doing the patterns, the fabric's the most important thing.
Yep. And that was always my goal with my business. Like I've always been an artist, like my whole life. And fabric was always the end game for me. So the fact that I'm doing it, that I've achieved it, I'm working with a company I love, that is super important to me. And like I said, I like designing the patterns, but I just don't have the energy to do it all. And
you just have to find people.
Yeah, limiting myself now to one pattern and accepting that sometimes I'm not going to be the one that makes that pattern. You know, I'm not going to be the one that makes that quilt.
But the other thing too is everything in life's a collaboration, right? So your skill set might be that you're really great at the fabric. You just need to find someone who's really great at the quilt pattern designs and partner with them and get them on your.
And I've even worked at that. So I realized very early on designing fabric that like I did not have enough hours in the day. And my editor for my book actually took over the writing part of my patterns for me. So I design them, I hand it over to her, and she does the writing part. So.
And that's the way a good business works. So my business coach was like, what's the role that you want? And I'm like, in your business, what role do you want? And I'm like, creative director. Come up with the ideas, and then other people see them through to fruition. I'm a great starter. I'm a horrible finisher. And so like, I can come up with the ideas.
I totally understand that.
But I lose steam about halfway through, and I'm like, whose stupid idea was this? So, and it's about positioning yourself to magnify your strengths and mitigate your weaknesses. And I think that's a sign of maturity when you can go, okay, I can't do that, and I'm happy to let it go.
Yeah, and it definitely took me a long time to get there. It wasn't something like that I did from the start, and it's definitely been a growth a process for me to get there, to be able to do that. Because I've called myself a creative control freak in the past.
No. You're a creative control enthusiast.
That's a much nicer way of putting it.
So we have 2 houses on the property. My parents live in one, and my family lives in the other, and my studio is in the middle. And there are 5 of us on this block of land, and 4.5 of us are control enthusiasts. But to varying degrees of who, like, and it was really funny because my husband, because we got married and everything, got married when I wasn't living living close to my parents, and so we would come visit and then go back, and so he hadn't spent a lot of time with us. And then now we all live together. Some nights he comes home after we've had like a family dinner or something, and he'll be like, "Babe, I know where you get it from." I'm like, yeah, sorry. But it's those traits that drive you to do what you do. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't be sitting here going, I achieved this. Like, you're a published author, you're a fabric designer, you're a mum, a wife, a friend, a daughter, all of those roles that you fulfill, and it's driven by that creative passion. And so that's a real gift that you've got, and I'm very grateful that you share it with us through fabric. And if you ever need someone to design a pattern, I'm more than happy to play with your fabric. But yes.
Oh, yes. I would be more than happy to send some to Australia.
Well, Dear Stella's one of those things it's hard for us to get, consistently get Dear Stella down here. And so when I put in an order for fabric overseas, I often will then just fill the order with going and shopping the back catalogue of Dear Stella so that I can get, because some of my favourite fussy cut prints have been Dear Stella. And so it is a real excitement to see that you found a good home with Dear Stella, and you have one of the best icons logos for your business of anyone in the industry that I know, and it is literally a messy bun. It's not a messy bun because it is.
And
yeah, I know, which is great, right? Because when we did the gnome for GnomeAngel, I was like, she has to have glasses because so often you don't see, we call them goggles. You don't see goggles on logos, but it's the thing that my face was built for glasses. Like, I look weird without them.
Yeah. So I used to wear contacts, but like as my autoimmune disease has progressed, I've gotten to a point where I can't wear contacts anymore. I have too many issues with my eyes. And so I have to wear my glasses all the time. So you're never going to see me without my glasses. And I was like, my company is my nickname. So it needs, I need a logo that represents me. And I think the funniest thing about it is that I was at QuiltCon this year, and one of the sales reps who had never seen me in person before, he stopped Jamie, the director of Dear Stella, and he was like, oh my gosh, she looks exactly like her logo.
I know, it's great. It is so good. But it's one of those things where I'm like, so I'm legally blind in my left eye and have been since I was like a kid. And so when contacts started becoming a thing, I went to the optometrist and said, can I have contacts? And the optometrist was like, the contact in your left eye would be so thick you wouldn't be able to blink. And so I went back and like we're a family of like I would say humour is the thing that connects all of us, right? Like we grew up on British humour.
Yeah, that's my family.
We love British comedies. I would go to a stand-up any day of the week. And so I got home and my uncle was over having lunch with us, and I was like, and I'm a kid, right? And a teenage girl. So in that horrible thing of trying to, find out who I am in the world, not being happy with my appearance, all of that stuff, and before social media. And I go to my mum. My mum's like, how is the optometrist? And I was like, oh, I can't get contacts. She said the contact would be so thick that I would need I wouldn't be able to blink. And my uncle, without missing a beat, just went, you could get a skin graft from your butt and put it on your eyelid, and so you could blink. And then he stops and he starts chuckling and he goes, but every time you pass wind, your face will smell. And I'm like, who says that to a girl? And he was like cracking himself up. And I'm like, okay. And to this day, I'm like, every so often I go in and the optometrist will be like, do you want to talk about contacts? And I'm like, no. I do not want to talk. Like, okay. And this time I went to the optometrist, and I think these are, I'm wearing new glasses. I've had the cat eye glasses for ages, and then I found in a small town having noticeable eyewear, different. I had glasses for a metropolitan city and I needed glasses for a small country town. And so I went in there and I was looking through the glasses, and I chose this set, which I think are fairly middle of the road, but apparently they're not, because the optometrist, I'm sitting there getting them fitted, and the optometrist walks out, who's just done my eye exam, and I don't know her, I've just met her, walks out, stops and goes, bold choice, and keeps walking. You're supposed to be selling these. I don't understand. I'm like, okay, all right. But glasses. So I said I went for big glasses because I've got a lot of real estate that I need to balance.
Yeah, that's the same. And especially because of steroids for the autoimmune disease, I have chipmunk
They're very
cheeks.
Cute cheeks.
And so,
they're very rosy and bally.
Yeah, Well, that rosy is like the lupus rash. That's there's no makeup on this face. It's at least it gives me some color, right?
Growing up in the tropics, both my parents have had melanomas and things like that. So got to be sun smart up here. And as a nerd, I just read all the time and was in my room and painting and drawing and just doing all of that stuff. And I come from a family of fishermen and outdoorsy people, and I never went outdoors. And so I went to a dermatologist because I have to get checked every 12 months. And I went to my new dermatologist in Canberra when we moved, and she was like, take your shirt off. And I took my shirt off and she went, whoa, that's the same color you came out of the womb.
That's how my skin is like as well. But like for people who don't know about lupus, I have really struggled with the sun the past few years in particular. And going out in the sun makes me flare. And I've gotten sun poisoning and horrible rashes that have left scarring. And so it's just not worth it for me. And which is fine. I can stay inside and sew.
I was like made for this profession. But yeah, and I can't, like, I love light. I love natural light. I love being in bright light rooms.
Yeah.
But I can't.
Same.
It's like, you see those vampire movies where their skin just goes through a sunbeam or something and it's like, that's me. I can't. Yeah. I just have to think about it.
Yeah, same. Yeah. And it's funny because I have kind of what some people would call like a Mediterranean complexion, but then I'm so fair and it's like it doesn't make sense.
I'm the same. I go out, like my dad is so brown, and I go out in the sun and I'll go bright red and then a day later it'll be brown again. And I remember as a teenager being like, why can't I stay this brown color all the time? And I think now I would take my pasty white pale skin that I know is safe over that lovely brown. And I have skin envy. I see friends of ours that are from India and Africa and stuff, and I'm like, oh, you have the most loveliest skin. I could swim in that skin all day long, the color. And then I'm like, and look at me, I'm all freckly and red and splotchy but yeah, it's just, it is really funny sometimes to see how life gives you stuff that you kind of go, it's just, that's not me. But then you make it work for like, said I was born into the wrong family, but this family has been able to help support me do what I love and champion what I love and appreciate that I'm different and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's just funny. But we have spoken for so long about all the random stuff, and I thank you so very much.
I know.
For your time. So I will, in the show notes, put links to everything so people can go and follow you and check you out and support you and add kitty litter to their, I call it pantry staples. So you need a range of fabrics that you can just go to that goes with anything, and kitty litter gives you such a diverse range of colours and then such cute little kitty heads in there.
Yes. And so I should mention that the basics that I have coming out this fall are called Wild, and they are like leopard print, but they're like tone on tone leopard prints. So in really fun colors.
So this is really weird, right? Now I'm really excited because for ages growing up, I was like, leopard print was always associated with tardy old women in my head. And I think it's because I grew up watching British shows, and the way that they would convey a tardy old woman is to put her in leopard print with big red false nails and smoking and all this sort of stuff. And so I
like Absolutely Fabulous. Did you watch Ab Fab? Oh my gosh, I love Ab Fab.
When I was a teenager, my parents called me Saffy after Saffron, the daughter, who was like so straight laced.
Oh yeah,
because that was. My parents had me when they were 20. Oh. So when I was 20, they were 40 and going through a resurgence of being teenagers. And I was like the straight-laced, have to pick them up from the pub kind of. But yes. Yeah, Ab Fab.
I love it. So my mom looks like Patsy. Like my mom is tall and has like the same bangs, and she totally looks like Patsy and like blonde and everything, which is hilarious because I have, this dark, thick, curly hair, but my mom looks like Patsy, and my mom used to smoke growing up. And so it was so funny watching Ab Fab and like seeing how much my mom looked like Patsy.
Oh, no. So your mum looks like Patsy and you look like the Adina.
Yes, my mom looks like Patsy. And I kind of look like Adina.
That is so cool. But yeah, so
except I'm tall because Adina is kind of short. So
yeah, but I don't know whether...
But the curly brown hair.
Because have you ever watched any French and Saunders, like Jennifer Saunders' early stuff with Dawn French? So Jennifer Saunders plays...
I haven't watched any of their other stuff except like I know Jennifer Saunders was on she was on Friends, like she played Ross's future mother-in-law and
but her and Dawn French, she's taller than Dawn French, and I think Patsy's just really tall.
Oh, really?
If that makes sense. So yeah, it's funny. But so leopard print to me has always been tardy old woman kind of thing. And then a couple of 12 months, 18 months ago, something switched in my head and I'm like, I cannot get enough of leopard print. I got leopard print shoes. I got a leopard print dress. I bought Anna Maria Horner had a leopard print in her collection from a number of years ago. I went through and stalked that and found all of that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I said to my husband, have I hit that age where the leopard print gene just kicks in? And I'm like, am I the tardy old woman?
Did they have Lisa Frank in Australia?
Not to the extent that they had it in America. But yes, I am aware of her.
I don't know what your age is, but like I'm like the elder millennial category, like I turned 40. I turned 40
I'm
this
47,
year. And,
so I'm actually in the cusp of millennial and Gen X.
Like Gen X, yeah. But like I had everything Lisa Frank when I was a kid, and that's kind of where my leopard print obsession came from. And yeah, I feel like this is like channeling my inner Lisa Frank, this collection.
Her leopard print was like neons and bright colors, and
that's what this is. It's yeah.
I'll pre-order.
So it's all bright.
Because there is something really fun about a leopard print. And I've seen some really cool leopard print where from a distance it looks like a leopard print, but when you get closer, it's other things that make up the leopardy print. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, and this is more of like a traditional leopard print. It's instead of being like brown with black spots, it's like light pink with hot pink spots, like those tone on tone. Like,
can you hear that? My father is
no. Is it your air?
My father is what do you call using leaf blower at my studio door. Like big sign on the door that says "shh, recording." He's like looking at it while leaf blowing past. Oh, I love him.
Yeah, I barely heard anything. It sounded like maybe like an air conditioner kicked on or something.
It's really funny because he's our groundsman. So I'm not, as we've covered before, I don't go out in the sun very often, and so I was not a gardener. And one of the reasons we bought the property we did is because I wanted to change that about myself. I should have just stuck with the knowledge that I was an indoor cat. And so he's been teaching me how to garden.
Yeah.
And on Saturday mornings, it's his ritual. He gets up and he does all the lawn maintenance stuff. And I always feel really guilty when I'm in here. And I'm working, but he's out there doing manual labor, and it's funny that I don't value what I do as this.
as much as what he does. Yeah. So I told you my husband is like Ron Swanson. So he's outside working all the time, and like he grew up on a farm, and we have a garden. I don't touch it because I try to buy plants all the time. I think plants are beautiful. I like love having plants in my house, and every time I touch them, they die. So I am a known plant killer. So I just try to stay away from the garden so that our delicious plants live.
Yeah, it's a running joke here that I am like the Grim Reaper of the garden, because they're like, you got to water your plants?
Yeah, I totally feel that. Like my husband says, like the only reason that our plants that we have inside are still alive are because he's the one that takes care of them, not me.
And like Dad's just done a big automated irrigation system so that I don't have to remember to water. Like now he's even compensating for my poor memory and lack of focus. But the garden is such a joy when it's like, it annoys me. It annoys me no end that he is right, and if I weed it and I look after it, that it will reward me with colour and texture and birds and butterflies. And but it's true.
Yep, and I love all that stuff. I love having, like, I'm a dork. I like watching the birds out in my backyard. We get a lot of birds, and I have so much fun watching the birds.
Me too.
I told my husband the other day that I'm pretty sure that makes me officially old because I am having so much fun bird watching.
You have to come to Australia because, like, there's so much bird life here. Like, when we moved here, I was like, I've never experienced bird life like I have here. We have roaming peacocks that live just... It sounds amazing, and they are beautiful. They are the most stunning birds, but they are noisy. They sound like a wounded goose on heat when they make their noise. They do the largest poops I've ever seen of any bird ever, and they do them like all over our veranda, everywhere. They would constitute a pest, but they're just so stunning. The kookaburras here are amazing. Like, they're just everywhere, and I didn't realize it, but kookaburras have a blue in their feathers, which I'd never noticed before we moved here. That's stunning. But my favorite thing, I'm training the local rock wallabies to come up and eat off our back deck. And so I did some research about how what foods you could feed them safely and how to supplement so that they're not relying on your food, that they still do the wild stuff. And so I've been feeding them this food on the back deck at certain times. And now one of the wallabies is pregnant. And so I'm like, she came up the other day to take from the plate. And over the weeks, she's been like licking around her pouch area and everything. And I'm like, I think she might be pregnant. I don't know. But she came up the other day and her pouch is definitely full and it was moving by itself. And I'm like, we're going to have a baby. I'm running around the house. We're having a baby. My husband's just like, you idiot. What are you doing? And I'm like,
I know. I've watched all these, like, so we have Disney Plus, and they have a bunch of the National Geographic shows that are about like zoos in Australia. And I like watched one when you guys had like all the fires in 2020, like about them saving all the koalas. And that's part of the reason I want to come to Australia so bad, is because I am like in love with the wildlife. And my kids like tease me. They're like, aren't there like giant spiders there that are like as big as a house? I'm like, I'm sure there are, but we have ugly spiders here too, like, and gross bugs here too.
And you've just got to be,
like
I say that, like, I have a massive fear of snakes. Like, it is the only thing on the planet that will make my skin crawl is to see a snake. Like, and we get a snake on this property probably every 2 weeks, right? And so I've had to learn to check like the door before I open it, because they come up the front door. I check, I check before I put my hand in a cupboard that's been outside, like all of that Like you learn to live with them. But the upside is we have a possum that lives on our property who my mum has called Sterling Poss after Sterling Moss, the race car driver, because he likes to go for drives in our engine bay of our car. And so, like, I know it's really weird. And he gets out. When we stop, he'll get out.
Well, we've had that with mice. We've had mice, like, living on farms in Idaho. We've had mice get in our cars, like, and they just...
he gets in.
Yeah.
We drive, park.
It's the same thing.
He gets out, and then he gets back in before we go. I don't know how he knows to get back in the car. Like, it just... And so he's here, and we've got, like, the wallabies and the kangaroos and the peacocks. We've had a massive goanna here. And I just kind of go, I've gotten to that age now where I appreciate... Like, I'll go to our kid, hey, bud, look, there's the... And, whatevs. But me, I'm like, look at all the animals. Speaking of this... We bought plants the other day for specific butterflies. I've gotten to that age where I'm now thinking about butterflies.
Oh, yeah. I do that for bees. I buy, like, for bees to save, because I really like bees, and especially bumblebees. And I totally nerd out when I see, like, little fuzzy bumblebees. Yeah,
you should come to Australia. We'll host you. But yes. So we should probably go because we've been chatting for ages. But I can talk to you forever.
Yes,
and the whole time I have resisted the urge to say, way to go, Idaho. But every time it's my favorite line in Toy Story.
Toy Story.
Way to go. Yeah. I said to my husband, we'd have to live in Idaho just so I could say that all the time. But thank you so much for being so generous with your time and your story and talking to us about your fabric and everything. Like I said, I'll put all the links in the show notes and people can catch you there. And thank you so much, Pam.
Thank you, Angie.
Thanks for listening to the Fussy Cutters podcast. Enjoyed listening? Why not subscribe so you'll never miss an episode? Did you know the quickest way to the heart of any podcaster is to leave a review or recommend the podcast to a friend? It's true, it is. Until next week, get out there and fondle that fabric.